was written in Scotland, of all places. My wife and I were on our OE. We had spent some time in the Middle East, in Jordan and Israel and Turkey. We'd been in England for some time, and we'd gotten up to Scotland, and I don't know what happened or what the secret formula was, but we were holed up in the Western Highlands looking after a little church in a Haere, which there's more sounds in there that I actually can't physically make, but yeah, it's near Fort William, and looking after a church there. And
that's a Haere.
A Haere.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was a great spot, but all I had to do was preach. And make the odd pastoral call and whatnot, and got the manse and the car and all that sort of thing. Just all had all this space and time to reflect in a lot, and somebody lent me a 12-string guitar. And the song Haere Mai, I don't know, I've thought about this quite a lot. I don't know if it came into being because I was so far from home, that sense of the God who calls us to himself, which is our true home, had a sort of a wistful kind of truth about it that I wanted to kind of remember. But it also grew out of the fact that I'd led a number of songwriting workshops or musical workshops for church groups, and I'd always talked about how we needed to write for the gaps in our singing kind of vocabulary. And I'd say, what's the call to worship songs that we can think of? And there would always be one hand go up, and it would always be, come now is the time to worship, in terms of contemporary. And so I was deeply aware that we had very little in order to sing that articulated that it was God who initiated this conversation of worship, and that seemed to me to be a real concern, because it's utterly important that we remember that God initiates this, and that we didn't come up with the idea on a Sunday morning or on whatever morning we first encountered Christ, that it's Jesus that always comes to us. It's not us that bundles along to Jesus with a bright idea about him saving us or us worshipping him. So I wanted all of the initiative to be on the part of God, and so this song developed. I wanted it to had a reasonably simple structure, come from distraction, come from frustration, sort of put a pattern in place, and it worked quite nicely. And then the Trinitarian aspects of the chorus, come for the Father is calling us, the Spirit is drawing us, and the Saviour has shown us the way, kind of seem to encapsulate the work of the Trinity in a wonderfully shorthand way, reminding us that Jesus isn't anywhere except with us, drawing us along and showing us, hey, this is how we do it. I've done it this way before. This is a safe path. We're going to be okay. And the Spirit being in that mix, and the Father being the end point that we're heading towards. And and then out of nowhere, if I had been experimenting with acid or something like that, I could blame it on that. But this bridge, hear the Father, Haere Mai, feel the Spirit, Haere Mai, know the Saviour, Haere Mai, that there was this deep consistency running through the action of God towards us, that you couldn't say, God the Father is angry with us, but Jesus, manages to convince him not to smite us all on the spot, and the Spirit kind of, I don't know what the Spirit does, to actually say, no, all of God is straining, in this effort to bring this lost and forgetful humanity into his embrace, and all of God is involved in this process. We sometimes think that the Father is somehow distant and austere and kind of, this kind of gruff old man kind of approach, but he's the point that we're heading towards. He's the home that the prodigal is on the way towards. So you start to realise that it's all of a piece. And so, I remember saying, as we were recording the song, that I felt that it was the first time that I'd ever written a song which did theology well, which did music really well, and which did singable really well. And those three things are a real dog to squeeze into the same 4 minutes normally, but this, it's a gift. The amount of time it took to write, it doesn't make any sense that it has as much meaning as it does. So I assume that it's come from someone with more to say than me. by His grace, He's helping me understand the words that He gave me and marvel at them. But I feel as much of a privilege as anyone at that song. And it's been profound in the way that people have, obviously the incarnational dimension, singing a Māori call, and also like the when somebody calls out Haere mai from a marae, there's a sense of come into our home, come into our world, let it be your world kind of approach. And then there's the exchange that goes on, but one of the things that happens just before that you come into the marae is that you hongi one another and you exchange breath, and that breath is meant to be, well, now we share life together. And so there's all this beautiful imagery which I could never have planned, but is evoked in that single line of the song, and to me is all congruent with what God's doing, towards us, and which the church is at once the focus of, and also the vehicle of, which is why that song appears in two different places with two different kind of jobs to do. On the one hand, we're the ones being called, and on the others, we're the ones hearing the call and sounding it again, to the next people down the line.
Simple and profound.
Yeah.
And irresistible.
Yeah, thank you, John Calvin. Irresistible grace. Yeah.
Come, for the Spirit is drawing us. Come, for our Saviour has shown us the way.